The head-pounding knocks at the door comes for the 28th time the same night, having to abandon my cooking once again. I promptly hustle out to the doorway. Orange blow filled to the brim with a variety of homemade candies made by yours truly. Trick or treat, the toddler squeaks. As he looks up at me, the dinosaur hoodie droops over his eyes. What a nice costume, I sigh, grabbing a handful of candies and dumping them into a half-full pillow sack. Thank you, he says, and waddles down off my porch and back to his dad. As I slowly shut the door and close and retreat to my kitchen, I quickly pulled my golden-colored chicken out of the steaming oven and placed it onto the counter, where I began to bombard it with spices of all sorts. I still feel the slightest feeling of guilt. I mostly enjoy handing out my candies to the troublesome teenagers, as the older they are, the more I give them. It's just a really fun-sized chocolate bar filled with a dash of vodka and some meth. I usually individually wrap them with pink or purple ribbons to make it look cheesy. Ever since I began handing out these candies, which I was well known for 3 years now, no one has accused me yet of their children waking up the next morning vomiting and sweating until they either drop dead or take a visit to the hospital. After all, I'm not the only one that does in the neighborhood. There's Peter down the street that hands out similar homemade lollipops that appears to be store-bought. I have to admit, I've really outdone myself this time. The chicken looked great and ready for it to devour. Before I could bring it to the dining table, I heard a knock at the door for the 29th time. The knock sounds hard, shaking the floor. Shocked, I peeked through the small crack just to make my door to see a small boy, 6 or 7 years old, wearing a little white mask, similar to the Wap Jabba Wokuzi's dance crew mask. He was wearing a black hoodie and jeans. He just stands there, staring at me from his mask. I grabbed a bowl of candy from the drawers behind me, holding it in front of him. Take a candy. Your costume scares me. He peeks down at the candy and looks back up at me. I know your secret, Anne, a ghostly voice said in a cold as ice mutters. His voice shot chills down through my body. How did he know my name? Where were his parents? He remained silent after his statement, waiting for my reaction. What do you mean? I stammered. Your candies are drugged. They make my friends sick. Following the statement, he slaps a bowl of my shaking hands, scattering candy all over my porch. The bowl shatters upon impact. What's your problem, kid? Pick that up this instant, I shouted, stomping at my door. The child just tilts his head, appearing to be confused at this statement. You heard me. Pick up my candy, I repeat. He shakes his head and backing up a couple steps. Well, how would you like it if I slap your candy bag out of your hands? Not very nice, huh? Now pick up my goddamn candy. He shrieked in a high-pitched scream, ran over down the steps of my porch and across the street. Hey, you get back here! I shout, stammering the door and slipping on my slippers. I sprinted across the street and past innocent children in their costumes, bewildered parents. I managed to see a small dark figure pushing his way past the others. He turns onto the next street, crowded with the cars and screaming kids. At least the street is lit up. I could clearly see him far ahead, uneven pavement. But he was far too fast. He then turned onto the next street very quickly, causing me to lose him. Grumpy, I made my way back and home and to see the kids huddle up on my porch, taking the fistful of chocolates like a piñata just burst. I make my way up the porch and realize my front door is locked. The kids, watching me curse at the starry sky, flee towards their angered parents and quickly made their way onwards. Luckily, I usually keep my back door unlocked, so I hopped over my fence and managed to make my way into the nice, cozy house. Locking the door behind me, I turned my porch lights and returned to my kitchen. Great, just great. The chicken is now cold, ruined. I don't think I could have had a worse Halloween night. I decided to clean up my porch. I made sure to unlock the door this time and head outside, and the 2 handfuls of candy bring them inside into a fresh bowl. I bring the bowl outside and begin to clean up. Finally, when every candy is returned to the bowl, every last shard of the orange bowl is swept up. I feel a whole lot better, considering Halloween night is almost over. as it is 11 o'clock. I decided to bring a chair out and sit on the porch for the rest of the night. Only a couple of guests attended, all teens. Once that the last light on the street turns off, I turned back inside, feeling a little bit better, but still very exasperated. With the remainder of the night, I popped one of my old horror movie flicks, Hellraiser, into the VHS player and began to doze off into my lumpy couch next to my bowl of steamy, buttery popcorn. But before I could completely fall asleep, a loud knocking comes at my door. "What in the world?" I muttered, bolting up from the couch, swinging the open door and shouted, "Go home! It's past midnight, not you!" I paused when the black boy in the black hoodie. Before I had a chance to react, he disappears on the street once again. "You best run away before I call the cops on you!" I screamed. "Get away from my house!" With all my force, I slammed the door shut and locked it. Just in case, I grabbed the knife from my kitchen and returned to the couch, ready to scare off any late-night visitors. I returned to my couch and lied down like nothing happened. The movie was near the ending. Same ending I would have watched as a kid and as a teen. The movie has long finished and I have dozed off from the television. I slept on the couch for no apparent reason. I began to doze off once again. I believe I got 2 hours of sleep before I heard my back gate creaking open. Now fully awake and alert, I grabbed my knife out of the floor, standing in the middle of the living room. I quickly flicked on my light switch and stared at my sliding doors. My eyes around as quarters, around for 15 minutes. All I could see was sprinklers laying dormant in the middle of my lawn and my garden, flowers swaying in the gentle wind, just like when my mind was being paranoid. I heard the 29th knock on my door of that night or morning, just the same as the other two, shaking the floor, causing me to jump out of my skin. I dare not to open the door, as a child might be there. I crept towards the nearby window in my bedroom that reveals a part of my porch. I slowly and quietly moved the shades on the window, slowly, but did not want to draw any attention. I opened the shades enough to peek through for any suspicions. I see just the same little black hoodie sitting on my porch steps, waiting for me to answer. He seemed harmless. Maybe he just needs help and is afraid. But then again, he knew my name in secret. No, I should probably just leave him there. He might leave. I inspect his every movement, making sure nothing was harmful or damage my property for the next 20 minutes. Just when I think he was going to get up and leave, he stands up and whispers something to himself, but I hear it loud and clear. "I know you're watching me through the window. Come out here now." His voice was ghostly. His words seemed to pass right through me, shaking me right down to the core. I jolt back from my shades, my heart racing. This cannot be happening. I need to wake up. I scramble out of my room and into the living room. I needed to act fast before this boy causes me any harm. Without thinking, I scream, "What do you want from me anyways?" There is no response. The only noise I can hear with my delicate ears was the wind picking up the dead, crunchy leaves. I decided to call up Peter for help. The only thing the police would be doing is locking me up for my candy. I would punch him in the numbers, heart feeling like it would just leap out of my chest any moment now. To my dismay, Peter picks up. "And what are you doing still awake?" "Pete, you gotta help. There's a little boy that won't leave me alone. He's some kind of spirit." "Geez, Ann, did you eat one of your own candies on accident? Here, I'll come over there. But I assure you, nothing's wrong. Thank you." Peter then hangs up shortly after I sit on the couch miserable. Peter then calls me up 5 minutes later. "Help me," Peter says in an agonizing voice. He strains the words out slowly. "Pete? You okay, Pete?" I cried. "The boy." Peter mutters, hanging up. Tears streaming down my face, I sprinted out the front door to see Peter standing down on my lawn, crackling like an idiot. "You asshole!" I sobbed, shocking him into the chest. "Do you know how hard this night's been?" Sorry, he yelled in a laugh. "It's just that..." "Just shut up," I shouted, clenching my fist. "This boy's been tormenting me for hours now. For all I know, he could be inside my house right now, wrecking everything." I shoved Peter and stormed off into my house, furious at the boy, furious at Peter, furious at myself. I climbed onto my bed and screamed. I began to cry a river as Peter hustles down the sidewalk laughing. As I sob into the darkness of my eerie room, I hear the shattering of glass, probably my sliding doors, springing into action, but still sobbing. I grabbed the knife that was sitting on my nightstand and rolled under my bed, the best hiding spot I could ever think of all the time. I hear a small, soft footsteps on my wooden floor outside my room. I control my sobs as such as I can, as a shadow of tiny feet walk past my doorway. The little feet return and my head down towards my room. The door creaks open, and the black hooded child, wearing his white mask-tipped nose inside, holding the glass shard from my sliding glass door that he broke. You didn't have to look, Anne. You're still underneath that bed holding a knife, wishing for Peter just to come out. I began to sob uncontrollably as the boy crouches down and gives me the good old stare. He offers me a tiny hand, so friendly and so innocent. With pleasure, I bring the knife down upon the boy's hand, creating a large gaping gash in his hand. He lets out a human roar as he retreats, leaving a slot of time to run out of the room and run. He chases after me with a ridiculous speed, diving on top of my back and slicing the back of my neck. I throw the boy off of me, sending him down towards the wooden floor. I jogged into the living room, gasping for my wound with my hand as my knife, and I prepare myself for the worst. What I see was a limping around the corner is in the corner is no longer a child. It's his pale, skinny, bony monster, still wearing the same mask, same hoodie, and hissing, spewing out black liquids that appear to be blood. The height of this is all increased, as well as about the same height as my waist. It crawls on top of the floor as it gets a good grip on my ankle, taking 2 nips. I sliced halfway through its neck, causing it to let go for a moment, and then it dripped back black, slimy liquid all over the carpet. The pale figure squeals as if did its final lunge at me. I plunged the knife right through its mask, causing it to let go limp and hit the ground. As the monster slams back onto the carpet, I wake up in the puddle of cell with the hair mass and limbs aching. As I later learned that there was no boy with white mask, no monster, there was even no candles. That I confess giving out, and there was Peter now dead. I half imagined the events of where Peter was really walked away when he heard me screaming, so he got worried the front door had been locked. So in a panic he had smashed through the sliding doors. So basically the boy, the white figure monster, had been Peter all along. Near the beginning of the night, the boy in the white mask was real. He really did know that I drugged this candy because he lived next door without me knowing the past few years, and saw me preparing the candy one day. My mind cracked near the morning, and I had been taken in a few days later, lying next to Peter's corpse. I sat silently in my padded cell, admiring my surroundings, where I remained for a long time, peering at my door, where a figure out of sight knocked on my door for the 30th time. And I guess that was Candy Pieces, a Halloween creepypasta written by TacoExpress. My final thoughts on this story. I honestly loved it. It was a pretty good creepypasta involving someone who drugged candy when he made it homemade to hand it to the kids, and that. This is honestly a pretty amazing story, especially with, how well made it is for, a creepypasta like this. Now, I did hear a couple of creepypastas, actually, a couple narrators narrated it, so I thought I would go ahead and, give this one a go. It's a really good story, because I do remember Silver Stories narrated this one, so I gotta say, it's a really interesting concept for the whole, drugging up the candy, and then a young kid finds out that they drugged the candy. I have a feeling that it could have been maybe just maybe just someone who happened to maybe be spying on them or something, and realized that this person was, doing that to the candy. I honestly do know that sometimes people do that to Halloween candies just for a trick or something. I mean, that's kind of why I always be sure to check the candy every time I get it for Halloween. But even though, if I'm trick or treating, but since I'm not, I can't really see this being the actual case here. But I mean, it's a really interesting creepypasta, and to be honest, I honestly still find this one did a pretty good story. So, I definitely gotta say, it's a great story. I definitely gotta say, it's a really amazing, well-made creepypasta. But I definitely have to say, it always involved, the protagonist getting, sent. I think the protagonist gets sent to like a mental asylum. I mean, maybe they think that he was crazy enough to think that maybe he's just, hallucinating or something. But taking the fact that this story actually gives us like a little lesson about it, but I do apologize. I'm a bit tired, so I gotta say, this actually gives a really good lesson saying, why you should, not hand out homemade candy because, well, trust somebody if they're going to do, something like that, like the protagonist did in the story, because you always got to trust your instinct because you never know what they could do. But anyways, with that being said and with that being the case, it's still a pretty good story. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was neat. It has a good concept and all, and I personally thought it was a good story. So, anyways, with that being the case and that being said, I'm going to sit here and basically say right now that TacoExpress, I want to say you did an awesome job with this story. Not going to lie, it was awesome. Fantastic. I really loved reading this. It was actually fun to do, and I plan to maybe do another one of your stories maybe someday, if you've made more, that is. I think I might have read one of your stories, but I can't remember. But I do know for a fact that I'll probably do more of these stories in the future if I can. But anyways, I guess with that being the case and that being said, yeah, like I said, this is simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. I'm gonna give this story a 10 out of 10. It's a great creepypasta. It's really well made in detail. It's pretty scary too, but it's a really awesome story, and it's definitely well made. The grammar is good and all, and there's a lot of great time and effort into this story. So I gotta give props to the author for making this story. So, yeah, anyways, what did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I am the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.